Welcome back. Again, we're going to solve another dividend policy problem using Walter's model. A company has 1 lakh equity shares of rupees 10 each. The company expects its earnings at rupees 7 lakhs 50 and cost of capital at 10% for the next financial year. Using Walter's model, what dividend policy will you recommend when the rate of return on investment of the company is estimated at 8% and 12% respectively? What will be the price of equity share if your recommendations are acceptable? All right. Now, how do you solve this problem? Again, make it a habit before solving any problem to write down the valuation formula. So, P is equal to D plus E minus D into R by small k, the whole thing divided by k. Now, do we know what is D? Do we know what is E? Do we know what is R? Do we know what is k? Now, R, you have two values of R here. One is R is equal to 8% and 12%. And the cost of capital, K, is 10%. What do we know? Now, we do not know what is the earnings per share. So let us find out what is EPS, earnings per share, E. Now, how will you find out? You have the earnings, right? Here it's given 7 lakhs 50 divided by the number of equity shares 1 lakh. So E will be rupees 7.5. Okay. So here R, in this case R will be equal to K, where R is 12% and K is 10%. So growth firm. And here R is lesser than K, where R is 8% and K is 10%. Now, we know what is E, we know what is R, we know what is K, but what we do not know is the value of D because the dividend payout ratio is not given. Now, the problem says, using Walter's model, what dividend policy will you recommend when the rate of return on investment of the company is estimated at 8%, 12% respectively? What will be the price per equity share if your recommendations are acceptable? So we have to assume different rates of D, different payout ratio. All right, now you can assume a 10%, 20%, 50%, 100%, 0%. But for simplicity's sake, always remember, let's assume, say if D, let's say D, the dividend payout ratio is 0%. Let's assume three rates, 0%, 50% and 100%. All right. So if D is 0%, then the value of D will be equal to what? Will be equal to 0, right? So 0% of 7.5 is 0. So find out what is P. P is equal to 0 plus what is E? E is 7.5 minus 0 into R. What is R? 0.12. This is for growth firm, divided by 0.10, the whole thing divided by 0.10. When you solve that, you'll get rupees 90. Same thing here. When D is equal to 0 for declining firm. So 0 plus 7.5 minus 0 into, now this is declining firm, so R is lesser than K at 8% and K is 10%. When you solve that, you'll get rupees 60. Now, assume another rate where the dividend payout ratio is 50% now. Then the value of D will be 50% of what? 50% of 7.5, which equals to rupees 3.75. So P is equal to 3.75 plus 7.5 minus 3.75 into 0.12, the whole thing divided by 0.10, which equals to rupees 82.5. There we have it. Again, same thing here when D is rupees 3.75. So P is equal to 3.75 plus 7.5 minus 3.75 into 0.08 divided by 0.10, the whole thing divided by 0.10. And when you solve, you'll get rupees 67.5. And the third one, if D is 100%, then D will be equal to what? So 100% of 7.5 is what? Yes, it is rupees 7.5. So P is equal to 7.5 plus 7.5 minus 7.5 into 0.12 divided by 0.10, the whole thing divided by 10. Now when you solve that, you'll get 75 rupees. That's a market price per share. Again here, when D is rupees 7.5, so P is equal to 7.5 plus 7.5 minus 7.5 into 0.08 divided by 0.10, the whole thing divided by 0.10. When you solve that, you'll get rupees 75. Now, what is the implication here? How would you comment on this problem? Okay, now we've assumed three different DP ratios here: 0%, 50%, and 100%. Now, for a growth firm, this would be my comment based on the findings. So for a growth firm where R is greater than K, you will notice that the price per share decreases from 90 to 82.5 to 75 with the increase in the DP ratio from 0% to 50% to 100%. So for a growth firm, the optimal payout ratio will be what? Will be nil, 0%, because at 0% the price per share is maximized, rupees 90, but at 100% it comes down to 75. So I would say for a growth firm where R is greater than K, the optimal dividend payout ratio should be nil, 0%. Just the opposite for the declining firm. You notice here that as the DP ratio increases, the market price per share P also increases from 60 to 67.5 to 75. So the optimal payout ratio for a declining firm should be what? 100%. Because at 100%, the market price per share P is maximized at 75 rupees. All right. So those are the comments based on the implications of using the Walters model for share valuation.